And I've heard you talk as well in the past about, if you're the HR person and you're kind of on your own looking
Yeah,
at this, it's much more difficult, particularly if you've
it
got a
is.
team around you that perhaps they're not used to that approach, et cetera. And I guess that's what you're alluding to a little bit. But uh, what are some of the ways that you think about, trying to remove those barriers that might exist? I think because that's what I guess what resonates in my mind is that perspective of if I'm on my own, I'm trying to ask these questions, and you just talked about bias. So I guess one of them is try and make sure there's enough people around you to
Yeah,
question that together. Are there any other barriers that people that you find come up against most frequently?
yeah. I think it's well. First thing I'll say is I think it's potentially quite a slow process. So in terms of getting an HR team, HR function to get into this way of thinking, I mean, they already are to some extent, I guess, particularly in larger companies who do people analytics, but to get which isn't in of itself evidence-based practice, it's part of it. But I think it's a sort of critical perspective on things, and I think it's letting HR and for any profession, it's quite threatening to admit when things don't work, to admit when they did things in the past that just don't seem to be adding any value. So I think one challenge, particularly for HR, with this historical thing about a seat at the table and being taken serious and everything, I think there's sometimes some concern that if an HR function goes down this route, it will be exposing, using data and evidence, to the rest of the organization, to the senior management team, what they're doing, and if it's effective, if it's working, and if it's relevant to the business. Now, that would be quite threatening to people in any profession, but in HR too, who are used to just saying, this is the stuff we do. We do training, we do selection, we're just going to do it. We do reward, we're just going to do this stuff. If you're suddenly saying, but why are you doing it? What is its purpose? What aspect of the business outcome is this really addressing, and how do you know? It's pretty kind of exposing. So I think in a way, but it sort of depends. For me, I think a practitioner saying, I don't know, or a practitioner saying, actually, we could try this, but I don't think it will work, or a practitioner saying, we tried to fix this, but actually this is what happened, and actually it wasn't very effective. In the end, I would more trust a practitioner like that than one who said, it's all good, it's all fine, Google do it, whatever it is. Look how many people attended the training. So what? I would much more trust someone who clearly was thinking about where the stuff worked or not, and it could explain why they made the decisions they made. So one thing is that shift in saying it's okay to open up to the rest of the organization. This is what we do in HR. This is our understanding of what the business wants. These are the ways in which we in HR can help you do that. This is why we think this. This is what we're doing. And this is data and evidence about if it's effective or otherwise. So there's that shift. But I think in the shorter term, I would say the most important thing is, and I'm sure it sounds like you've seen these models, the 4 sources, the 6 steps, the definition, that can be quite intimidating. And I think for me, it's more important that people just try and use more data and evidence from different sources, taking a structured approach in the way they go about their work, particularly for big decisions. So rather than say we've got to take this full on, this model, which is intimidating and seems impossible for many functions and will just take too long, just do it a bit more. Do it a little bit more, set aside a bit more time. Okay, maybe you haven't got 4 sources, maybe you've got 3, but that's better than 1 source. Maybe you don't follow every step, you just follow some. That's fine. You're still more likely to identify what the problem or issue is and what the potential solution is, even if you just do it a bit than not doing it at all. And I think through that process, my guess will be HR functions and individuals within it learn that if we start using a bit more information and data, we will make better quality decisions. Because in the end, I think every practitioner, including people in HR and organizational psychology, they're very concerned to answer the question, what should we do? Which technique shall we use? It's the wrong question. It's not what you do, it's the way you go about deciding what to do and how that's relevant to the context you're in. So it's the process by which you go through that decision, not what the thing is, not the what, is how you go about deciding the what. And I think that's often quite again, for lots of practitioners, not just HR, it's quite a sort of shift in thinking from what are the things what are the tools we've got, which ones should we choose to know what is the problem or issue, how can we decide that, and then how can we decide which of these tools or techniques are most likely to help. So it's quite a sort of shift, I think, for most of us.
And I guess hearing what you're saying is, and doing that with the end in mind constantly.
Yes. Yeah.
In terms of the outcome that we're
Absolutely.
looking for, and adjusting as we go.
Yeah, exactly.